Happy solstice to you. So, for those of us who are in the Northern Hemisphere, this week we get to welcome in the winter solstice, which is the longest night of the year. It's the shortest day of the year. So, I like to think about that darkness like a blanket over the land. So, for those of us who are wild women, who resonate with the wild woman archetype, we look again and again to the natural world as a spiritual teacher, as a school, as a playground of experience, as a guide. And the turning of the seasons is such a big deal because every season makes its offerings and invitations based upon the physical reality of the season, what the plants are doing, what the sky is doing, what our bodies naturally are doing. So in this video we're going to look to a single lesson plan for the winter season that you can consciously contemplate or not. And that simple lesson and instruction really is dream. So, dream winter's lesson plan. We're going to look at a Mary Oliver poem and go deeper into, she's going to help us go deeper into kind of the spirit of winter and dreaming. And then we are going to end with something to contemplate for the winter season. So, I want to first invite us to remember that nature is constantly embodying and showing us the creative process. So, there is the conception, the gestation, the birth, the growth, the life, the eventual fading out, waning, death, then the rebirth. So it's always, nature's always doing this. So if you look like the seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, if you look at the day, which is, dawn, eventually the whole day, then noon, then dusk, then night. If you look at the life of a plant, if you look at the life of an animal, if you look at the life of the human, you just see this archetypal pattern. So the winter piece of that is akin to the new moon part, is akin to the night. And obviously at night we dream because we're sleeping. That is a time for our dream life. And I think that's one really important thing that we remember to do in the winter is to actually rest, to let ourselves maybe go a little slower, to be softer with ourselves, to really restore so that come spring, we are rejuvenated. So there is the form of dreaming that has to do directly with sleep. And then if we think about like the creative process, so the creative process of making anything, I think of life as a massive and messy, like our own personal lives, massive, messy, magical, creative process that is ongoing and has so many pieces. That really is the center of our power, is the creative project of our life. And we are always in a creative process, whether we are choosing to be conscious of it or not. I think choosing to be conscious of it allows one to cultivate and create things that you actually really want to create versus just kind of doing doing patterning that was taught to you, doing what other people do, how other people have lived their lives. I mean, we really have the power, um, especially as modern people. Like we have so much agency. Yeah, we have limitations. That's built in to this whole thing of being alive, the fact that we will die one day is a form of limitation, and we all have different limitations, and our limitations are unique, and we also have our unique dreams, our unique perspectives and skill sets. So we have the opportunity in the winter season to kind of go into the proverbial cave. I learned recently to this word that the Toltecs, which is like a mystical tradition out of Mexico, refer to the womb as dreaming box. The womb is a dreaming box in their tradition. And I just love that because we were all at one point in the womb. And winter is a kind of womb space. It is the womb space. Okay. So if we think about winter in those terms as a place to dream, as a place where dreams are seated, I think that that's a really cool way to look at it. But it really is the beginning of the creative process. And I think that there's a few things going on in that part of the creative cycle. There is, this all comes after the surrender, the autumn, the letting go, that is, it's the end of one cycle. So that's one piece, the death and the beginning of a new cycle, the inception or conception. So there's the piece that at first has to sit in the void, to sit in the womb, to sit in the cave, to sit in the dark, to not know, to not have a plan yet. But the invitation is conscious dreaming. So we can ask ourselves, how do I dream? Like, how do I consciously sit and be open with my dreams? I think we're all different. Some of us, there's so many different ways. One of the things I love to do is sit in circle. I love to meditate. I love to journal. I love to dance. I love to do yoga. I love to walk in the woods. What do you love to do? Where do you, before you have the idea, when you're in the void, what is helpful for you to like really allow yourself to land in that void, in the dark, in the winter? And then there's the piece of having an idea. Like suddenly you get a vision. You finally, at long last, know what you want to do. And that's the inception. That's the very beginning of the creative process. So I think winter has both of those. It's like the sitting in the void and then the finally seeing the vision, finally knowing what we're going to do, so that we can carry it into the spring, so that we can work with the rhythm of nature, which in the spring will have us rebirth, have us rise up from the soil towards the sun, towards the light, and to grow and to cultivate it, and eventually, to let it go, like everything else, including our own bodies will eventually have to let go. So in the winter is that womb space, that sitting in the dark and then dreaming. And then the inception, the conception, the seed becomes clear, the vision makes itself known, and you know where you're going next. So I chose this Mary Oliver poem called Starlings in Winter to help go a little further with this idea. I want to preface this by describing for a moment what starlings are. So, starlings are these blackbirds, which in winter, they get little white stars on their black feathers. Okay. And they are, you may have seen this in real life if you're really, really lucky, or you may have seen video of it. I kind of wanted to cut a video in, but then I'm worried about copyright stuff. So I'm just going to describe it to you and put a link to some starlings in flight below this video. So what they do is phenomenal. They, as a massive group of birds, take to the sky and do what looks like an award-winning choreography in flight. I mean, they move around, they come together, they form different shapes, they make themselves really tight, and then they just instantly and all in sync, like make different parts and shapes, and it is a wonder. It is a miracle. It is like craziest thing you've ever seen. And Mary Oliver wrote a poem about it because that's what she did with those kind of the awe, which nature, you know, it'll really get you sometimes with the awe feeling. So let's see what she has to say. Let's go this side. Yeah. Chunky and noisy, but with stars in their black feathers, they spring from the telephone wire, and instantly they are acrobats in the freezing wind. And now, in a theater of air, they swing over buildings, dipping and rising. They float like one stippled star that opens up, becomes for a moment fragmented, and then closes again. And you watch and you try, but you simply can't imagine how they do it. With no articulated instruction, no pause, only the silent confirmation that they are this notable thing, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. Ah, world, what lessons you prepare for us, even in the leafless winter, even in the ashy city. I am thinking now of grief and of getting past it. I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping hard. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing, as though I had wings. So she begins with wrapping her mind and her words around what she is seeing, what nature is showing, and just and admitting you try to understand, but you can't how they do it. That she articulates her awe and just of these incredible creatures that do this amazing thing she knows not how. full of gorgeous life. And then she says this true thing, world, what lessons you prepare for us, even in a leafless winter, even in the ashy city. You know, pointing to this thing that we're talking about, which is, you know, something I think about all the time. The only spiritual teacher one needs is nature, is the natural world, which holds everything that we need to know. And then she goes on to say, I am thinking now of grief and of getting past it. We looked at another of her poems in the fall on the autumn equinox, and where we were focusing on surrender and about how, you know, that poem was about how you have to love something, like your life depends upon it. And then eventually you have to let it go. To let it go. So here she names in this winter poem called Starlings in Winter. Here she names this thing of the point in grief where she's thinking about the grief and of getting past it. And anyone who knows grief knows there's so many different phases inside of the grieving process. And there comes a time where something like where the grief breaks into a new phase. It does that several times, but there comes a point in the grief where you realize this is not going to last forever, this grief. There's a part in grief where you think, I'll never know what it's like to not feel this way ever again. You think the grief is going to last for eternity. And graciously, it changes, it changes form. So I just wanted to name that in that surrender of the autumn that we were talking about last time we spoke like this, there's all that grief, the grief that goes with letting what you love go, and here she is at winter, and she's at this part where she's like thinking about getting over it, the grief, and I don't think she says that lightly. She goes on to say, I feel my boots. Think about boots are like heavy. I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping. There's this like readiness, not moving yet, but things are shifting. Something's happening. There's a change. She says, I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. Like that's the North Star. I want to think again, like as if this is a place that she has once thought of things like this, but she hasn't been thinking about them recently. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. So I think when she says dangerous here, just knowing Mary Oliver from all of her poetry and the pairing of noble, when she says danger, she's talking about the kind of danger you feel when you're stepping out of your comfort zone toward something noble, something you want, but that is a break from what is, that is a change. It feels dangerous. To dream a new dream is dangerous. It's a danger to what is, because it is the beginning of a new thing. It's the beginning of new life, new experiences. She says, I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing. She's looking at these starlings. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing, as though I had wings. So she's naming in this wintertime poem this opportunity and experience we all have in winter, where, winter is big sky time because the leaves are off the trees. The sky looks different. There's so much sky. We look up. And that is like that looking up, that's ancient, like, the people, the unfathomable amount of people that have walked this earth before us stood on the ground just like we do, and they look up, and it is the place of dreams, the wishing upon a star, the imagining what could be. So I love this poem for how it kind of, you get this experience that perhaps many of us can relate to, of walking in nature and seeing something that blows your whole mind open and inspires you to make a change, inspires your imagination, and it stirs something, it moves you. This is what's available to us at any time of year. And for this season, if you want, and only if you want, you can approach it as a dreamer, knowing that dreaming is the beginning of the creative process, knowing that you will sit in the void, not knowing for a while and you'll need a lot of patience and some courage and some discipline to sit there and sit with it. And then it'll come, and you'll know your new dream when you see it. And you can take that dream seed and you can nurture it for as long as you want, until it truly has a life of its own. And the seasons will support that exploration. So if you, perhaps as I have had a heavy autumn, if you have had some letting go to do, maybe some grieving to do, some surrendering to do, if you've done all that and you're like the tree standing naked now, you can let your energy go down just like the trees do, into the roots, into the earth. You can go into that womb of winter, that kind of cave, that dark space. Sit in the void and dream a new dream. That's your option if you would like to. I feel excited about such things. I love that kind of thing. That's like my very favorite sort of thing to do. So if you've had anything like that, in autumn, like here in my hometown, we experienced a biblical flood and brought on by a hurricane and a bunch of rain. And it's been a doozy of a letting go process. And I'm looking forward to sitting in the quiet and in the dark and finding some new dream seeds. There's something I think that's so beautiful. My favorite of all the holidays is New Year's. Most everyone I know disagrees with me on this. I don't care. But I love New Year's because of the dreaming. Because there's something about that turning from one year to the next, and as a world, as a species, we're all doing that together. We're welcoming in a new year, and there's hope and a sense of possibility, which is truly always there. It really is always there. But it's in winter, and I think that there's an intelligence to that. the potentiality of the year ahead and to make the most of it, which, we can be intentional in our creative process so we make the most of it. And then life's going to do what it's going to do, and it's going to throw you curveballs. And there are going to be things that are outside of your control, our control, things that, we're all dancing. We're all dancing with a ton of forces, and we're dancing with one another here on earth, and we're dancing with history, and we're dancing with heat and light, and we're dancing. So I hope that we tap into the dreams, the true dreams that we have for our lives, so that we can bring forward, whatever is your dream, that you give yourself the opportunity to actually go for it, and to have all of the experiences, which run the gamut from being really fun and also really hard. But it's going to give you experiences to have a dream and go after it. So I'm wishing you good dream time this winter, so that come the spring, you know what you're working towards, what you're working with. The dream that's in your heart. Thank you so much for watching this, and for walking with me through this contemplation and through the beautiful poetry of Mary Oliver. We thank her, we thank Winter. And at the Wild Woman Project, we have our 13th birthday coming on January 1st, which is very, very exciting. And then on January 13th, the wolf moon, which is the wolf full moon, I'm going to open up the doors to Wild Woman Underground for 21 days, or until all the spots are taken. And Wild Woman Underground, if you're not familiar, is this club of sorts that we have. And all of us who are in Wild Woman Underground, we share an app, which we call the Cave, which the app is a place where we can share pictures of nature. We can ask and receive resources, and it holds our weekly gathering recordings for the last almost 2 years. The most major and center, is sort of the heart of Wild Woman Underground, is our weekly gatherings. So every single week we circle up, we do all kinds of things. We do circles. We have a circle coming for the solstice. We do forest bathing. We do yin yoga. We do meditations. We do, I'm sure I'm forgetting, we do book clubs. We just on, all things Wild Woman. So things about things that help us tune into nature, the sisterhood aspect, being in the wild feminine space, and activities that tap us into the creative pulse of life, which is, runs right through the heart of the natural world, and in fact everything we've been talking about here in this video. So if that seems fun to you, I'm only opening it twice a year, so once in the winter and once in the summer. So if you'd like to join us, I hope you will. I'll put a link below this video so you can join the priority list and get the email when registration opens up, for just a few days. So we'd love to have you if that sounds really fun to you. We have become very close, and it's a really nice, very, very supportive thing we have going with the Wild Woman Underground. Another thing that we do every single new moon is I facilitate, this is anyone can tune into these, the new moon meditation adventures. The next one is on December 30th. I hope that you will join us. That'll be extra special because it has that New Year's shine to it. Yeah, and those new moon meditation adventures are included in Wild Woman Underground. Just if you're thinking about Wild Woman Underground. And I think that was all that I want to say. We're turning 13 on January 1st. On the 13th of January, we have the Wolf Moon, which is when the Wild Woman Underground doors open. And then every single new moon, I facilitate a new moon meditation adventure. If you'd prefer something in the flesh, go to our Find a Wild Woman Project circle page on our website, and you'll find a list of facilitators who have gone through our circle leader training program, and they're listed by location. So you can find a circle near you. They operate totally independently, so it has their contact, so that you can join their circle if you'd like to do that. So thank you again for watching. I want to close by reading this last little bit of this poem. She says, I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping hard. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing, as though I had wings.